The 3-game week for Kieran McKenna's Ipswich Town, looking to do a little bit better than the previous one. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Welcome to the Prematch show, QPR away edition. Joining me to cast his expert eye over this one, Seb Brown. And I don't know, Seb, we put to bed some rumours in the summer. As a podcast, they come around periodically, but this recent success we've had does lead to us having to talk about stories like, is our manager going to Celtic? Should we get this one out of the way early doors and we can just focus on football after that? How are you, by the way?
I'm good, yeah. I was quite lucky. I've been away in Spain, hence why I wasn't at Blue Monday Live. So I was out of the country when the Celtic stuff occurred, when Brendan Rodgers resigned, and then I didn't link 2 and 2, to be honest with you. It didn't cross my mind. You know, when Brendan had a managerial vacancy in the summer, straight away I was thinking, oh no, McKenna's going to tick all their boxes, and I didn't twig with Celtic at all. And then I kind of turned on Telegram one evening after some Estrellas and some lovely Spanish paella, and I kind of caught up with everything and suddenly thought, oh yeah, there's a chance that he might go here. And obviously the pre-match presser was done today, Thursday afternoon. I was wondering if they might push it to Friday, being it's a London game and therefore quite easy to get to, but they did it today, and he gave some comments, and yeah, I guess we'll discuss it and let's have a chat about what we think might happen. I have to admit I'm much calmer now I've read the comments of the pre-match presser. As Town fans, you know, every time there's a managerial vacancy somewhere, I understand where people get upset and get concerned. I've seen some stuff on social media saying it might be time for McKenna to move on, and he's struggling to get this side going. And to me, that seems crazy personally. I still think he's probably the biggest asset at the football club. And for him to leave, especially given the scenario we are in on a precipice of looking to get back to the Premier League, I think it would be really, really damaging to the club. So pretty happy with the comments he's put out today. It was very much a straight bat. I thought Nick Ames in Telegram, excellent as always, level-headed as always, kind of said, those that know McKenna for the last few years, you can kind of tell, can't you, sometimes when, you know, he's not kind of batting that straight bat. And today it came across as, you know, yeah, he seems committed to the project, happy here. Of course, if Celtic ring up at 9 a.m. tomorrow, it's a very different conversation. But I do feel slightly calmer having seen the pre-match presser personally. I can see why it would be attractive. I've seen stuff again on social media saying, you know, no one in their right mind would leave Town to go to Celtic, and Celtic is a huge club, and it's got European football, and McKenna's career trajectory, as we know, he wants to manage a top 4, whatever, you know, the Man United job, top 4 Premier League side. He'll be looking at some sort of flow diagram and thinking, does getting Ipswich promoted and keeping them up get me a better chance of a mid-table Premier League move as a stepping stone, or do I go to Celtic and, you know, a couple of SPL titles, European football, which is probably a huge attraction. They qualify for the Champions League every year and then have to qualify to get in, and they dropped out this year into the Europa League. But a crack at European football is probably very tempting for him. But then you look at it and think, Ange Postecoglou, Steven Gerrard, it's not an overly well-trodden path from the SPL south of the border in terms of success. So, yeah, I'm a bit calmer. I'd like it to go away. I think it's probably going to rumble on for a little bit now. But fingers crossed, he will still be here in a couple of weeks' time. And I will say to everybody, as we always say at this time when these things happen, betting markets are influenced by the tiniest bets being posted. Just because somebody suddenly jumps overnight doesn't mean people with inside information are suddenly lumping on it. It just means a bit of money's been put on it, and that's what sees the huge shift in odds. So don't panic too much regarding the betting markets, because they're a bit of a kind of a false thing, aren't they? So that's my kind of, you know, my kind of take on it. I thought he was relaxed in the press conference. I thought he was laid back, and I am pretty calm having seen it all.
Yeah, good summary, Seb. I appreciate your wisdom on this topic. You know, we're here to talk about QPR, of course, but always good to get your calming thoughts on this one as well, and chimes very much with my own thoughts on it. I think probably actually I've got trepidation and nervousness because of the atmosphere around the club and how the fan base has been in recent weeks. Actually, you know, we've spoken about Charlton, and we went into the West Brom game and previewed that one, and the atmosphere was discussed last weekend. And what you don't want, I think Daniel put a post in the live chat there about, you don't want it to be, if it ever happens, and hopefully it isn't for quite some time, you want it to be on kind of really positive, optimistic, happy terms. And it does kind of feel like this McKenna team 2.0 that we keep talking about is a work in progress, and you would hope that there's some motivation and excitement about that challenge and getting us back to the right end of the table and creating a promotion challenge. But you're right that the stature of Celtic is not to be underestimated. I know that we think very highly of ourselves. Of course we do, but in the world game, Celtic don't compare. Yeah, the SPL is not particularly competitive, but nevertheless, Celtic are a massive club. I think your point about people who have gone to and from the SPL, particularly the big two, interesting. Brendan Rodgers is left, and I guess the situation around that departure is worth Kieran McKenna being alive to, I would suggest, because it didn't feel like a particularly good situation there. I know their owners come out and had a lot to say about that situation, but what I would say is that Brendan Rodgers left Liverpool to go to Celtic as opposed to the other way around, wasn't it? Then came back for Leicester, didn't he, Brendan Rodgers, and then went back to Celtic. So it's not as if, with the greatest respect to Brendan Rodgers or Celtic, that he has traded Celtic up. It's kind of, he's moved away from Liverpool to go to Celtic because I think he was sacked there.
Well, they fired him. They sacked him, didn't they? Liverpool sacked him, and then he went to Celtic and did very well there. But yeah,
and when he felt like he wanted to give presumably his brand, his status a boost, he went to Leicester. Title winning Leicester in recent years around that time. So we don't want to besmirch Leicester as well and drag them down into the mud with me, but there's some context there about those moves, and I think that's an interesting thought you make there. And there are some other targets out there too that seem pretty viable. The fact they've gone for an interim manager in Martin O'Neill also is an interesting one too. So sadly, as we say, probably some more yards to run until there's a permanent manager in the dugout at Celtic. But to your point, and as people have said earlier, I think Kieran McKenna said absolutely the right things today, and probably as much as it was sensible for him to do so in the pre-match presser. So we keep our fingers crossed that everything starts to move forward positively for him, Ipswich Town together, and Celtic sort themselves out with somebody else, because we're big fans over here on Blue Monday. Let's move on from that one, Seb. Kieran McKenna talked about Sam Smodich's situation. Do you want to summarise that?
Yeah, so he's had an operation, hasn't he? So obviously he went off injured against West Brom, kind of did that thing. I think he did it, was it Coventry in the Cup away last year, where he was clearly injured but tried to play on for a bit longer and ended up doing worse damage to himself. I don't think we saw him again after that Coventry FA Cup game for the rest of last season, and it looked to be a repeat. So he's had surgery on what he's calling a minor knee injury. McKenna's in the press conference has said he expects him to be back after the November international break. So what's that? Another 4 weeks? Is that from now? I've lost track of my bearings, to be honest with you. But hopefully it's not going to be too long out for him. Just can't quite get going this season, can he? Kind of. Or I guess you could say that about his Town career, really, couldn't you? Every time he kind of gets in the team, and did very well last year with those 4 goals, mainly in the left 10 position, he's always got these niggling injuries that he picks up and ends up missing a bit of a run. So wish him all the best. Hopefully the recovery goes well. Interesting comments that he said he was getting a bit of hate from international fans regarding his international, not attending the squads and not playing, etc. So we've got to remember that footballers are human and stuff, and injuries and operations is part and parcel of the game. But hopefully he can come back fit and firing. And yeah, December's going to be very, very busy. So if he can be back in time in 4 or 5 weeks' time for that crucial block of games, that'll be very, very useful.
Indeed. Finally, before we talk about QPR, ITFC women back in league action, having had a break for the international weekend. Shout out to Natasha Thomas, first ITFC women international goal scorer, scored for Jamaica. So congratulations to her. We also need to say belated happy birthday to Lucy O'Brien, who celebrated this week. But yeah, ITFC women face Newcastle at Colchester on Sunday, usual 2 p.m. kickoff. Tickets available in the usual places. And Newcastle, in a weird kind of situation, recruited pretty aggressively in the summer. Jordan Nobbs ended in there. A name that probably is familiar to quite a few people who have followed the Lionesses over the years. So they've recruited really well. But parted ways with their manager, I think, a week or two ago, and some other stories which I won't drill too much into, but you can find if you go searching about some of their transfer dealings. I'll leave it at that. So a bit of a kind of a strange situation, a strange time for Newcastle at the moment. So it might be a good time to play them if I'm clutching at straws. But obviously ITFC women always probably the underdogs in most of their games this season. So we wish them all the very best. It would be good to get a victory, wouldn't it? And yeah, go on a bit of a run. So good luck to them. And get down to Colchester and support them if you can. On Saturday, though, Seb, we are all eyes on the Capital and QPR. And we're kind of yeah, we'll talk more about QPR in terms of the stats and all that kind of stuff. But your summary is kind of everything's kind of a bit middling. And I guess in the context of the history, we forget that 10 plus years ago, they had kind of a proper banter era in the Premier League. Like recruitment was just off the charts in terms of money spent and the big names they brought in, but it didn't really end well and kind of struggled to find any level of consistency, a lot of movement off the field, not a huge amount of active recruitment on it until maybe this summer. And we'll talk about that. So it feels like maybe everything's settled down. They've got a pretty progressive CEO, he's quite a young guy, but has got a data background. So you can kind of, I guess, from the outside, feel like there are green shoots there for QPR, but it's going to take a bit of time, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, we saw them described on some preseason podcasts and those 1 to 24 predictions. Some people had them down as dark horses for kind of getting into the. That's an excellent t-shirt, by the way. I was wondering when you were going to mention the t-shirt. For those of you that are listening on podcast, Rich is wearing his forfeit t-shirt from losing the FPL challenge last season, which is basically a sky blue, obviously given his love of a team in the Midlands. A sky blue t-shirt with our respective faces saying one of us is a FPL genius and one is not. So I'm sure you can work out who is who. So there is the forfeit t-shirt. Sorry, it's 5 months later, whatever it is. Yeah, so they kind of, obviously they've got this really exciting attacking players, I would suggest, QPR, and it's kind of backed up by this experience at the back. And they are one of 3 sides who share the record for being the longest serving sides in the Championship. This is their 11th season, along with Preston and Bristol City.
Nothing,
is it? So what are you, 17? Yeah, 17 years at this level. Come back in a few years, lads, when you're at our level. And so yeah, they've never really kind of threatened the playoffs since being relegated from the Premier League. But they have shown in the last couple of seasons a bit of progression. It was like a 20th place finish, a 15th. They're currently sat 9th. So it's a side that we're looking to kind of push on. I guess the issue will be the squad isn't the biggest, so a couple of injuries to key personnel. We'll discuss who their threats are, but a couple of injuries might well kind of, see them withdraw further down the table. I think I put them slap bang in the middle of the league on our 1 to 24 predictions, maybe lower mid-table. And that's probably, I know they've had a decent start, so therefore the optimism will be raised, but that's probably where I would imagine they will end up.
And I said middling, they are above us in the league table, aren't they, Seb, at the time of recording?
Yeah, they are. They're 9th with 18 points, 2 points ahead of us. Played 12, won 5, drawn 3, lost 4, scored 15 goals, conceded 17. They are very much a second half team. They are 5th in the second half table, and they enjoy scoring. They enjoy scoring late goals. 5 goals scored after the 81st minute, and none conceded is the best in the league. So they are a side that finishes games very, very strongly. The last 5 have 2 wins: Swansea and Bristol City, 1 draw against Oxford, 2 defeats, Millwall and Derby last time out. Their home form, mid-table, 14th with 8 points from 5 games, 2 wins against Stoke and Charlton, 2 draws, Preston and Oxford, and that defeat to Millwall that I mentioned a minute ago. So, yeah, solid start, kind of just outside the playoffs. Ahead of us, we seem to see every week, and the teams that we're playing are always like 3-4 points ahead of us. They are ahead of us as it stands at the moment. We obviously leapfrog them with a victory on Saturday. So it's a solid, decent start. I'm just not entirely sure it's sustainable.
We'll talk about that Derby defeat in a second. Do you want to do a bit of both before we forget it again?
Yes, let's go to that now. You've annoyed me the last 2 weeks with Gareth McCauley and somebody else that you got pretty quickly. So you're not going to get your chance this week for your Leadbitter. You're not getting your chance this week for the hole in none or whatever you call it. You have to at least have the first clue. So 224 league appearances for Town, scoring 51 goals.
Kieran Dyer.
No, he was he was one of my choices, but no. 86 appearances for QPR, scoring 25 goals.
Chris Kiwambia.
Bastard. This is too easy.
I was going to go Chris Kiwambia for my first answer, and I forgot him.
Neil's nailed it straight away, as he always does. Neil Wilmore in the chat has got Kiwambia straight away.
There you go. Well
this is too right. We're going to have next week. It's going to be.
That's great. So you need to get on Pride of Anglia, and there's a connections.
That's where I take it from. That's where I take it.
Can't be more niche, mate. Can't be sticking Kiwambia in there. He's a legend.
Well, I know, yeah. My other clues were
I interviewed him on the podcast. I've got a signed. So do you remember? I think when they beat us 3-1, and I think he scored twice. I think it was like maybe an Easter game or something like that.
That was right. That's towards the end of the 2000 season, isn't it?
I'm thinking that there was a home game the season before, I think. and I can't remember. I need to dig out the program, but it's a QPR Ipswich program, and he signed it as a QPR player for me. It was so he's one of my yeah. I don't know what I'm looking for. One of the players that I loved when I was growing up. So yeah, you need to find a crap loanee that I would, Did John Stead ever play? John Stead's not a crap loanee, but I couldn't chuck John Stead in the mix. There's got to be some deep cuts in there you got to go for. Let's make it more difficult.
Right, I will double down for Swansea next week, and you're in a world of trouble.
Well, can someone help me out? I'm being called out here. How many goals did Kieran Dyer score for?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But
51 goals.
All right, bloody hell.
He only played for 4 seasons.
Yeah, but scored goals, didn't he? I was going off the appearances. Everyone's a critic, and I got it too. Did you show me your working, Paul? When did you get it? Back to QPR. Derby defeat, or do you want to talk about anything else? Let's talk about the Derby defeat.
Yeah.
Not that it's interesting because it's the last time out at home. QPR, different beast. There was lots, if I was a QPR fan, that would worry me about this performance. I think 1-0 kind of flattered Derby somewhat. There is a really big miss, though. There's an absolute sitter in there too. But the defending, Seb, was really static, wasn't it? And there's a few instances of phases of play where Derby defenders just fall asleep, or maybe they're markings only and are just not picking up Derby players. And that could have ended up a little bit. Wow, there's a head off the post and there's something off the bar. Yep. It didn't look like the best day out for them.
They looked really susceptible to me to set pieces. The goal is scored by Carlton Morris after 10 minutes. It's a second phase from a corner. So corner comes in, cleared out. It's basically just a pump back into the box, and one of the Derby players heads it across the pitch, and the Derby defenders have stepped up when the ball's left, but then not dropped back. And Carlton Morris gets a tap in from 2 or 3 yards, but he is in acres of space. So poor defending from the second phase of a corner. Then there was the free kick that kind of hits the bar. There's a free kick where a guy hits the post with a header, but then they have an excellent chance through Richard Kone. We'll discuss him a bit later on. He's kind of 7 yards out, completely unmarked. Ball comes in from the right, and he just gets the header completely wrong. So it's a real horror miss from him. They had the lion's share of possession, 62%, but the XG 0.38 to Derby's 1.67. The Carlton Morris chance is like 2-3 yards out, so it'll be very high on the XG. But I don't think anybody would say that Derby didn't deserve to win the game. 6 shots, 1 on target. But yeah, I noticed huge areas of space from the set pieces and a real susceptibility to just ball swung into the box.
Yeah, it does give cause for optimism there if we can get bodies in the box,
because our set pieces are so effective, our attacking set pieces.
Yes,
I'm being facetious.
Moving us on. Yes, I'm moving us on. Let's talk about the boss, Julian Stefan. We're going with. I kind of mentioned a lot about people at QPR over the years. We forget. I think their highest post-relegation finish was under Mark Warburton. He left. Then Beale came in. I was going to say Ian Beale, Mike Beale, isn't it? Came in, and then he went to Rangers, and then Neil Critchley came in. He was sacked after 12 games. Gareth Ainsworth comes in, and it doesn't really work out. I think they stay up by the skin of their teeth. And then you got Cifuentes came in and had a great season. Then he's off to Leicester. It does feel like whenever they get onto a vaguely good thing, it then goes against them, and then they can't really figure it out. So lots of chopping and changing. So it's good pedigree there for Stefan, if that's what we're going with. And he'll know at least one of the Ipswich Town players on the weekend, won't he?
Yeah, so Stefan's been in charge since July, replacing Marty Cifuentes. Cifuentes, if you remember, was placed on gardening leave like 2 games or 1 game before the end of last season. Everyone kind of thought he was going to West Brom after they replaced Mowbray, but he didn't go there in the end, and he ended up at Leicester. So they replaced him with Julian Stefan, come from the French league. He's tracking for 69 points if he keeps up this current rate, which in a low-tide season gets you 6th place. I think Bristol City got 68 last year, didn't he? So a couple of times in the last 2 or 3 years, you might have scraped 6th with that. He hadn't been in work, he'd been out of work for 8 months when he joined. Previous managerial spells in France at Rennes from December 2018 to March 2021, and then he returned there November 2023 to November 2024. He did win the Coupe de France, which is like their Premier Knockout Cup, the FA Cup equivalent, not the League Cup, if you know what I mean. With Rennes in 2019, taking them into the Champions League for the first time ever the following season. He signed and managed a certain Azor Matasiwa in January 2024. So we had 9 months with him. And between those two spells at Rennes, he went to Strasbourg, but didn't do very well. Ended up getting sacked. Playing career as a central midfielder in Ligue 1, Ligue 1, sorry, and the French lower league. So yeah, a bit of pedigree. He won I guess winning a knockout cup in France is probably quite difficult, given PSG seem to just win everything over there. So that's not to be sniffed at. And getting Rennes into the Champions League is an achievement as well. So yeah, like you said, they just can't really settle on once they get. I mean, Cifuentes I thought was excellent. You know, they were in real trouble when they fired Gareth Ainsworth. Cifuentes came in, steadied the ship. We love him because of that amazing 4-0 victory over Leeds in the final week of the season. But just as you think they're building, ends up getting pinched, and yeah, they'll be hopeful that Stéphane A stays around for a bit, and if you can bring some of that success and know-how from Ligue 1, then they'll be onto a winner.
Yeah, the other angle, I guess, to this, Seb, is I'm trying to think back to last weekend, because is this the point where the new manager bounce for certain teams starts to run out? Because I think if you think, well, Ryan Mason, his West Brom side lost to us. Rob Edwards, Borough drew with Wrexham, did they not? Or they drew with someone at least. I'm trying to think, there's a few others in there. Obviously, QPR lost to Derby, didn't they? Liam Manning obviously can't buy a win at the moment for them lot. You do kind of think there is a point where you could have, it's the real deal, or it's the real quiz with a new manager when you kind of get to this point and the players get used to the training sessions. They get used to the kind of patterns and style of play, and they either buy into it and, you know, teams maintain their form, or there's a risk of a return to the mean, isn't there, or the norm of maybe of last season. So it feels like maybe there's an important time for Stéphane to just embed his philosophy and get the buy-in from the players. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And you know, there's a few managers that are being talked about as departures already. That tells you everything you need to know about the Championship. In terms of the head-to-head record, Seb, I mean, it's always difficult. I always kind of look at it and go, well, yeah, that's fine. I totally understand that. Or that's a huge shock. I think this is probably on the side of a bit of a shock for me. The head-to-head record's so close. What's the scores on the doors?
31 wins for Town, 20 draws between the two, and 30 wins for QPR. They kind of seem to me to always be a side that we would always beat at Portman Road, but very rarely get anything at Loftus Road. That's kind of how I sort of imagine them. The last time we went there, we will all remember it well. August 2023, third game of the season, I think it was, after Sunderland and Stoke. 1-0 victory. Connor Chaplin scoring fairly late on. Initial shot was it blocked or saved? And he manages to get up in the blink of an eye and slam the ball home. And one of those away games where we did get a little bit lucky. Sinclair Armstrong hit the inside of both posts. Remember, went right across the line, and I think their right back put a ball wide somehow from a corner. So we did ride our luck.
Chair have some missed chances as well. Yeah, we did get away with one, didn't we? Then
similar to the Bristol City away game, a 1-0 victory where you could argue that the home side should have got something out of the game. Other notable visits there. The 4-2 December 2004, Darren Curry's debut, I think, was it? Yeah. Scored on his debut, that deflected effort. Jim Magilton's first win as a Town boss there in August 2006, a 3-1 victory. There was a 3-1 a couple of years later under, it must have been Roy Keane, maybe, or maybe towards the end of Jim's time, maybe. I remember Pablo and Walters, I think, got a couple of goals there. So, yeah, the 1-0 Connor Chaplin win was our first win in 6 visits there. It wasn't a happy hunting ground until that point. But yeah, just a side that I always seem to imagine beating at Portman Road, but maybe struggling at Loftus Road until the last time we went there. And the lineup quiz, it's me throwing it at you this week. I'm going to take you back to August 2006. Jim Magilton is in the dugout for his 4th or 5th maybe game as Town boss. He's lost to QPR on the first day of the season. He's lost away at Leicester. I can't remember what else he's done. But this is his first win in charge of Town. It's a 4-4 effing 2. It's the start of the 2006-2007 seasons. This is before the money comes in from Marcus Evans. So we are kind of scraping the barrel a little bit with signings. So, yeah, good luck, my friend.
So I'm trying to figure out if this is, because I think there was a couple of 3-1s under Jim. Is this?
I think the 2009 might be under Jim as well. That's Pablo and Walters. That's after the money's come in.
That's red away shirt. This is black away shirt.
This is black. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking I'm chucking Dan Harding and Fabian Vilnius as the fullbacks in there.
Yep.
And Jason DeVos is in there, doesn't he score?
Scores, yeah. It was on Sky, I think. I think it was a
on
Friday
Friday
night.
night.
Yeah.
I think Mark Noble was in the team.
He was.
On loan. And I also think Simon Walton, therefore, is probably in the team as well.
He was. Goal scorer.
And now I'm starting to run out of, momentum a little bit. I'm trying to think who would have been up front at that point. Pablo's still around, isn't he?
Who, sorry?
Is Pablo gone at this point?
He's gone. He comes back the following summer. So the strikers are a player signed the year before by Joe Royle. Became a bit of a
Nicky
cult hero.
Forster? No.
He moved on Nicky Forster and Sam Parkin, didn't he?
Yes, of course. Well, Sam Parkin scored a great goal. It's talked about on Blue Monday Rewind, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're on top tier, do check out Blue Monday. They talk about the 4-2 and they talk about Sam Parkin's goal, because I think that's the same goal where Mark Fish made his one and only appearance.
It is, yeah.
I made a half an appearance. I'm still struggling with, the forward.
So it does regular things for Town TV, the striker who you can't get the name of.
Yes.
Irish.
Alan Lee
is one of the strikers. Yep.
His
partner, a young Irish player, had a lot of potential, but never really
Billy Clark.
I think Billy Clark. Yeah, he scored a few goals towards
he
this.
Scored in around. He scored a goal against Coventry at home. I seem to remember.
And Southampton, maybe. I can't remember.
Yeah,
and then so you need the two wingers. One's a player playing out of position.
Love that. That doesn't help.
Normally a left back, but he's pushed slightly further forward.
Matt
Came
Richards.
through the academy. Matt Richards. Yep. The right winger had him on loan. Signed him permanently for like $100,000 the year before. Gavin Williams from West Ham.
Gavin Williams was because he's involved in the goal, isn't he? I think he might get an assist.
I think so, yeah.
Does he not score?
No, the goal scorer is a DeVos, Walton, and then
I think he has a role in the goal. I need to dig out that away shirt. I really like that away shirt. Sorry,
the other centre half partnering Jason
Naylor.
DeVos. He was signed. No, Naylor was on the bench. He was signed by Jim Magilton the summer on a free transfer.
Yeah, I'm not going to get that one.
Alex Bruce.
I haven't got the keeper yet, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Is it Lewis Price?
One or two. Yeah, one or two. It's either Shane Supple or Lewis Price. It's Lewis Price, yeah.
Good. I started well. I kind of tailed off. We've got Neil got Simon Walton. Good on you for that one. We got a shout for Garvin, not quite that point. And Alan Lee, correct. One on Streaky. Too soon for Walters. Yeah, a lot of people kind of
I did. I muddled up
games.
the 2-3-1s. Yeah, I had to double check it because I was getting confused as well. Because I think they were both night games. I think that one was on Sky as well on a Saturday night, maybe. Yeah,
I was at a 5:30 one. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, but
okay. Yeah, nice. That was a good one. Yeah, I thought if you're going to chuck me the 4-2, that would have been too easy. But no, that was a good one to choose. Well done. Good stuff. Let's bring it up to date. Let's talk about current business. And I really like a lot of QPR's recruitment. You kind of talk to a lot of people like them as a dark horse, probably because of the business they've done in the summer. I like Kwame Poku was a name that had been mentioned in relation to us, but probably, Seb, we've talked about him already. It's Kone, isn't it? That deal seems to be one that everyone's thinking in the Championship, at least. Why didn't we go for him? So it's a real coup for QPR, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's worth pointing out, I forgot to mention it earlier at the start of the show, they have the second youngest average lineup in the division this season after Watford. It's something like 23 point something years of age. And there clearly is a focus on youth, especially in the attacking areas. So Kwame Poku, they got on a free from Peterborough. He ran his Peterborough contract down. Obviously, there he's known as a winger who can score and create goals. Lots of links to Birmingham, but ended up at QPR. He got injured on the first day of the season. He is back in training, so he might feature against us, but a good talent from the lower leagues they will look to nurture and develop. Richard Kone is the big one, isn't he? I think, I'm not sure if we were ever officially linked with him. It might have been fans kind of wishing it, maybe. Certainly in the summer before we got some players in as kind of an upgrade on Ali Al-Hamadi. He moved for £3 million from Wickham. I remember we were linked in the January transfer window with like 18
more
goals,
than £3 million, I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, the difference between a January panic buy and a summer kind of more.
I guess they were going for playoffs, weren't they, at that point? So
and I think he didn't go quite early. He went quite late in the window as well, if I remember rightly. So maybe they were just pricing themselves out of moves. But £3 million from Wickham. Koki Sato, Japanese winger, £3 million.
Like him
from Lommel SK. Yeah, I quite like him. Karamoko Dembele, £1.8 million from Brest. So going back to the French leagues and kind of picking up players from there. And then they've added a bit of experience. kids. Isaac Hayden is coming on a free from Newcastle in central midfield. I kind of mentioned they've got this kind of at the back. It's still Steve Cook and Jimmy Dunn and kind of the more experienced Championship players.
Still there,
and they've got this sprinkling of attack up front as well. No real departures to speak of. They cleared out a few of the squad players, but Charlie Kellman went for £3 million to Charlton. We saw him obviously a couple of weeks ago in the midweek game. They got £3 million for him. So we seem to sit here most weeks and discuss the non-parachute side, kind of doing this player trading model where they look to the continent to kind of get better value and look to develop players. I would very much kind of put QPR, I went blind there for a minute, QPR in the same list of people who were kind of trying to do that, find the value overseas, develop it, flip it, and if you can, kind of reinvest it and look to push on to compete with the likes of ourselves and Leicester and Southampton, etc.
Yeah, I do feel more comfortable with those kind of fees than what we're paying, if I'm honest. I still haven't really got my head around that world, but hopefully we still have more of that to come, rather than regressing back to a more modest transfer business. Do you want to talk about the tactical pad and how these players are utilized?
Yeah, sure. Share the screen. So it's a 4-2-3-1 formation. They've used it on 11 occasions, and they used 4-4-2 once as well. Worth pointing out before I do the graphics, they are the quickest side in the league for getting the ball from back to front. They are also 5th for accurate long balls per game. So there seems to be a bit of a switch towards a more direct, more kind of maybe pragmatic style of football than it was under Cifuentes. They've got a bit of an issue with their two strikers. So Richard Kone might be a surprise to those of you looking on the screen. For those of you listening on podcast, he's playing in the number 10 position. Obviously at Wickham, he's more known for being an out-and-out kind of powerhouse, explosive striker. But they've had to play him slightly more withdrawn because they're trying to fit him and Burrell, who's got 3 goals, into the centre-forward position. But when I move it forward, you'll see they basically become a front two. So this is the average player positions. You'll see Kone has pretty much gone up front alongside Burrell. Sato, the Japanese winger I mentioned, likes to come inside. They love to attack down the right-hand side of the pitch. 44% of their attacks come down that right flank, which is the highest in the league. Jimmy Dunn averages 66 touches per game and has got 2 assists. So their right-hand side is one to watch out for. If I bring it forward to the heat maps where they touched the ball the most, you'll see Kone still slightly deeper, but he does like to get a bit of support for Burrell. Sato is pushed right up, and you'll see Vale and Dunn, Harvey Vale and Jimmy Dunn in that right-hand side like to hug the touch line, and Varane, the central midfielder, kind of pushes out there to try and create a little bit of an overload. They're not amazing pressers, mid-table for pressing intensity. They are very strong in the air. 24 aerials, dual 1 per game is the 4th highest in the league. 5 goals conceded from set pieces. We discussed the Derby one was the second phase of a set piece. 5 goals conceded from set pieces is the joint 4th worst, as are Ipswich Town. And they are very susceptible to being hit on the counter as well. 3 goals scored is the joint 2nd highest. So they will be direct. They will look to get the ball forward quickly. They will push Kone up into almost a front 2 if he starts slightly more withdrawn. But as I said at the top of the show, they do end games very, very strongly.
And any key players that we haven't talked about? We talked about Kone, we talked about Sato, haven't we? Anyone else you want to mention?
I quite like Nicholas Madsen in midfield. He kind of makes them tick. 1 goal, 1 assist, 52 touches per game. He's created 15 chances so far this season, which is the best in their squad. And the keeper, Paul Nardi, +3 in the goals prevented stats with a 75% save rate. So, yeah, decent. They've got a couple of injuries. Kwame Poko, we've mentioned, kind of missed the first game. Sorry, got injured in the first game of the season. Hasn't been seen since. He is back in training, so could well feature. Joe Walsh, the keeper's got a broken wrist. And they've got Zayed Lakachi, who's got an ACL. He won't be featuring. So almost a clean bill of health of the regular players. Kwame Poko, I'd imagine, will be on the bench and will look to come onto that right-hand side for Harvey Vale at some point in the second half if he doesn't start. But Richard Kone and Sato, very much the kind of the ones to watch. Sato's like a lock picker. He likes to cut inside and kind of find those through balls to the striking players. So a player we need to be on our game and watch for.
Nice. Thank you, Seb. Appreciate your insights. We'll be back in a bit to talk about how Ipswich Town face up to QPR.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thank you to Atwells for their support of the podcast this season, and One Stop Badges too. You can find out more about both of those in the link in the description. And I brought some One Stop Badges on Saturday for the live event. I think that's basically it now. So we're in negotiations with One Stop Badge for something else, unless Seb's got a few in his glove box somewhere. So if you can, if you can hunt Seb down at an away day, neither of us managed to get QPR tickets in the end. We've not got enough bloody membership points, have we? So coming to a northern away day, maybe Blackburn part 2, we'll give more badges out, but we are running low on those. So they are now, if you have one, limited edition. Get them on eBay and charge a tenner for them. But yeah, One Stop Badges at Wells, thank you very much for their support. Plenty of stuff going on this week. We mentioned it's a 3-game week. What I'm going to do right now is gift some memberships for top tier, because there is plenty going on top tier. We mentioned Blue Monday Rewind with Craig and Dave, looking at ITFC versus QPR games from years gone by. We'll also have the weekend preview on Friday with Henry and George too, an alternative look at the game and a broader look at the programme across the championship this weekend. And Seb and I, we're going to do some logistical planning right here, right now on air. Are we going to do a pre-match mini on top tier? And are you going to do a live reaction with Mikey free to access for everybody straight after the game on Tuesday night as well, Seb?
I have no life, my friend. So yes, we will do a Watford pre-match light, probably a 20 to 25 minute job. We'll probably record it on Sunday, so it'll be out. What will you put it out Monday? I'm assuming, and then me and Mikey will be around for the post-match. Let's hope it's happier than Charlton, which I think is probably one of our most watched shows this season after the Norwich one. So hopefully a better result, and we'll see if you can get up the hill in time to join us and give your perspective from being inside the stadium.
Up and down the hill. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I will walk it this time. I took the car halfway last time, and I think I need to plan for success and enjoy the full-time scenes, hopefully. But yes, as always, the flagship show will be back on Sunday to talk about QPR after the fact, and finally rounding out our coverage of the QPR game is Beyond the Scoreline too. So plenty going on top tier. We know that some people are a little bit miffed about the concept there. It is ad-free, but it is supplementary. It's bonus content that we're putting out there. But as always, this show, the flagship, the live reactions, the news show, when and if stuff happens, will always be available to you guys. So there's never going to be any change to that stuff. So top tier is hopefully just adding even more to your week on that front. The conversation continues over on Telegram. But as always, Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk, everything you need to find is linked there. And we need to say thank you to David, who's kind of doubled up for us. We gifted some memberships, and David's, as always, thank you so much for your support, has given other people the opportunity to enjoy top tier for a month as well. So first come, first served, get in there quick, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. Cool. Let's talk about us then, Seb. I've had a go at Tactical Pad this week. I didn't know whether you wanted me to put it on the screen from a little bit of bits and pieces from the West Brom game, and we can remark whether there's any kind of noticeable changes that we've spotted. What I would say is I'm pressing the button to add it to the stage and it's not working. So immediately failed there. So
professionalism is...
It's not working, Seb.
Because I'm sharing the... Shall I
there you go. I figured it out. It's because yours was still sharing. There we go. So that is the kind of standard starting formation. I've kind of stretched out across the pitch, but probably the one to look at is the kind of average positions here. And we were remarking beforehand that in terms of the attacking positions, there's a lot more buddying up, isn't there? Hunting in pairs, but also you see from that how important Matasiwa is dropping in. Those are the average positions. Look at Matasiwa, is basically on top of Dara O'Shea. That looks, you like the look of that a bit better than maybe what the hell was going on in Charlton.
I do. We looked at the Charlton one, didn't we? I mean, if O'Shea stood there is pretty much where I think he wins the header for the opening Charlton goal. So if he knocks that down and Matasiwa is playing, Matasiwa picks the ball straight up and we're off. So his absence obviously felt very, very badly against Charlton. What we remarked on last time, we discussed how isolated, was it Avon started, didn't he? Yeah. We discussed how he felt very isolated. We couldn't get Chuba Akpom near him. Akpom was kind of more withdrawn. If you look at that, this is the heat maps one, or is it the average player position? Sorry,
that's the average position. So I can put the heat maps on as well there. I mean, you know how deep George Hurst was there, but yeah, that's still similar though, isn't it?
Yeah, the thing that strikes me, if you go back to the middle screen, is we discussed how isolated Hurst was. Look at that. Jack Taylor, who I thought was excellent, by the way, against West Brom. We'll discuss what we think we'll do on Saturday, but I thought he was a real standout, a surprise standout. He is so close to George Hurst. So clearly there was a more concerted effort to get our number 10 or our attacking central midfielder further forward to help Hurst out and give him a little bit of support. And as you say, it's very much kind of partnering and hunting in pairs. Davis and Philogene nice and close. Schmodic not on the field for too long, but Egley kind of just behind him, and Schmodic doing that coaching role with him. But Matasiwa for me is the absolute crucial part of that puzzle, to have him back in the side, sitting in that pocket of space just in front of the likes of O'Shea or Kipre is crucial, because it allows the attacking players to go forward with kind of knowledge. I was listening to watching the overlap earlier, and Paul Scholes was saying how he could always go forward and look to create and score goals because he knew he had Roy Keane behind him. I'm not comparing Matasiwa to Roy Keane, but if you've got a solid, dependable midfield partner alongside you, the freedom it must give you to go and be more expressive in the final third must be absolutely crucial, and that's what we miss badly when he's out of the side.
And a game like Saturday, because we've talked about the away form, the thumbnail talks about away day scares. We just haven't found a formula away from home. Taylor, for me, has to start, doesn't he, on Saturday?
Yeah.
In terms of being less risky, less open. You kind of talked about the kind of right inside the counter-attack threat through QPR, but Taylor's definitely put himself into a starting role, isn't he, on Saturday now?
Very much so. I was just debating before the pre-match presser where he would start. I see a world where we know Schmodic has had surgery. We know he's out. We didn't know about Akpom until the press conference at 3:00 or whatever it was. So I thought he might end up slightly further forward in the number 10 role, and it might be a case of Nunez sitting alongside Matasiwa. But given that Akpom is fit, I'd expect Akpom probably to start in the 10, which means that Taylor can sit alongside Matasiwa just like he was last weekend. And yeah, I just thought he was excellent. I was a bit surprised. I think we were all surprised to see him in the starting 11. We all kind of assumed it would be Nunez and Matasiwa, given that Kiyus doesn't really tend to play 3 games in a week. But I thought he was absolutely excellent. Talk about taking your chance. You would have seen Matasiwa arrive earlier in the summer. He starts the first couple of games, and then Kiyus arrives, and then Nunez arrives, and you kind of think, well, we're out of the League Cup. Taylor's going to have to be a bit patient here. He might get a few sub appearances, and he might make the occasional start in a 3-game week, but he's probably going to have to wait for the FA Cup third round for a real solid 90 minutes. But fair play, he's coming out of nowhere. And yeah, Streaky says there, man of the match. I would agree with that. I think, did Sky give it to Leif Davis, I think, but I thought Taylor was excellent. And yeah, I wasn't sure where he'd start in the 10 or more withdrawn against QPR. So I think he'll probably start more withdrawn. But yeah, 100% he should be in the team sheet because he came in and did excellently.
Just quickly, David, continuing the generosity and the support of the podcast. Thank you for the
David.
super chat. If you want to do likewise, there's a button in the live chat on YouTube to do that. But we just asked for a thumbs up, and tell your mates as well. I think that's something we really underestimate is just being. There's some really nice words from earlier, so thank you for everyone who's said nice things about us. But the way to support, as I say, is give us a thumbs up. YouTube likes that kind of stuff. A 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. So if you're able to be generous like David, we really appreciate it. But just the basics of helping us spread the word is very much appreciated as well, folks. But thank you once again, David. There. So we're going with a Matasiwa Taylor midfield pair. I guess the questions, the debates, Seb, are the front 4 now, isn't it? I guess we've got perhaps to include George Hurst in that, do we?
Yeah, I mean,
so what's your config?
Aslan was Johnny on the spot, wasn't he, for the effort that was saved, which Clark followed up and scored. It's a 3-game week, so Aslan will start one of these. It's a case of, does he start away at QPR, at home to Watford, or away to Swansea? I'd imagine he might well start the home game again. So I think George Hurst might well get the nod at Loftus Road. Akpom, I assume, will be okay in the 10. If he's not, I think Taylor will go slightly further forward. I think if you're going to, I'm not sure. I think Nunez would play, but not in the 10. I think he would be Matasiwa's midfield
really
partner.
Good though, Seb. He was really good in that position towards the end of the game against West Brom.
He got into some good spaces, but I think it's one thing doing it in I think that's too many, what's the term? Square pegs in round holes. That's the one, thank you, yeah. I think it's too many of those if you were to do that. I could also see a world maybe where Egley slides across into the 10 and McAteer comes back to the side potentially. There was talk when we signed him that his long-term position was seen as a number 10 or a number 9, so that could happen as well. But yeah, I think if Akpom's fit, he will get the nod there, and that means Taylor alongside Matasiwa. I think Jack Clark will start on the left ahead of Philogene. I think Philogene away from home hasn't really got going. I think Jack Clark probably deserves a start, to be honest with you. He keeps coming off the bench and scoring goals. Very humble in his Sky post-match interview, where he kind of said being a super sub wasn't the worst tag to have, and you've got to keep working hard and stuff. So I think he will come in for this away game, the one at QPR, not the one at Swansea. Defence, I think it picks itself now, doesn't it? It'll be Furlong, it'll be O'Shea, it'll be Kipre, and it'll be Davis. But I would have Jack Clark come in alongside Akpom and Egley behind George Hurst. What do you disagree with there? Would you have Nunez in as the number 10, would you?
I think I would, but then I would also think that Nunez probably starts on Tuesday, maybe at home.
Yeah.
So I also think, there might be some debate about the right wing spot there. There has been a lot of chat, both at our live event on the flagship show, about Philogene and Clark being in the same lineup, which kind of is exciting, but you also feel like, man, like if we weren't already massively open and really attacking, that would be taking the biscuit, wouldn't it? But I quite liked Egley's performance on Saturday. And I also think there's a point where he scores his first goal and then just goes on a run. I'm really excited for that. So I think Akpom has started to see a little bit more from him. I think there's logic in the Clark away from home debate. I'd quite like Hurst to score a goal. So I kind of agree with that. And you start Athlon at home, but then we've had issues, Seb, haven't we, with rotation on a Tuesday night? And
well, this is the crucial thing, isn't it? The first 3-game week of the season was managed pretty well. It was the Portsmouth at home, got out of jail a little bit with a crappy performance against Bristol, but got a point on our travels and then beat Norwich. So 7 points from those 3 was excellent. But then you could argue we messed it up against, so many changes against Charlton that became the real kind of, bone of contention. So it'll be very interesting what McKenna does. He's got a big squad. He's got to keep people happy. I assume that if the likes of, I think Azon would start against Watford. I think Nunez would start against Watford if they don't start on Saturday against QPR. So it'll be interesting to see what he does and if we've learned any lessons from all this constant chopping and changing, because every time we've made so many changes, we've kind of let ourselves down a little bit, haven't we? So we need to start kicking on now. We need to start to look to pick up 7 points from these 3-game weeks. We did it so well in 23-24. How many times did we sit here and Joe on a Sunday would say 9 points and we'd be like, all right, Joe. And then we get to the following week and we've done it. We're so good at it. And you see in the league how many, when you look at the recent form guides, 3 wins in a week shoots you right out of the table, especially at this stage when it's all bunched up together. So
no one wants to go on a run apart from Coventry. So yeah,
exactly. So it's there for the taking. You mentioned earlier Middlesbrough had a little stutter against Wrexham. So there are teams, well, Stoke have maybe hit a little bit of a dodgy patch. So now is the time to start taking advantage of that. I just don't know if that comes with a settled side or not. We know McKenna will make changes because he always does. It's just a case of will it be 3 or 4 as opposed to the 7 or 8 that we've been seeing.
And is there any difference in respect of it being an away, home, away trio?
It's a different dynamic, isn't it? Yeah, the last 2 were the other way around, weren't they? They were home, away, home. I guess Watford at home, I know they got a new manager in Javi Garcia, but you'll argue that's the easiest of the 3. QPR both in the table. Swansea haven't really hit the ground running like they were probably outliers for at the start of the season with the Snoop Dogg money and stuff coming in. So yeah, maybe that's the one you logically make a few changes for, especially at home as well. It's a bit easier, isn't it, for the likes of Azon coming in at home when he's still getting up to speed with the league and the patterns of play. That might be a bit of an easier one, but I just really hope it's not 7 or 8 changes. I'd be perfectly happy for what you put up on the screen to be the Saturday game, and then 3 changes. You change the 10, the striker, and Philogene comes back in for Clark, and the rest of it is settled. And then maybe only 2 or 3 again for Swansea away. I don't like this change pretty much half the team every time we have a 3-game week, because it is starting to hurt us a little bit.
And that consistency of selection comes with winning matches, and we just haven't done enough of that. So you've got to hope. We talked about it. West Brom's got to be the kind of a turning point. It's got to build on it, haven't we? So fingers crossed that starts from Saturday. And as I say, we're all over the games next week, so do stick around for those here on Blue Monday. We're going to go to the chats, get your thoughts on the lineup. We'll also go for your predictions. I'm going to be consistent with our approach for last week, where I didn't ask Seb for a prediction, nor did I. I think you gave a prediction in the end, didn't you? And you got it right too. So I will shut up. But I'm really keen to get your views. So get those in the chat. And we've got some time for a few questions for Seb. If you've got anything, we won't drag it out for the full hour unless you guys want us to. I'm aware that the Traitors is on at 9, and I'm properly invested in that now. So I'm ready for that one too. But yeah, there's a lot of love for Nunez in the chat. Trevor saying play Nunes, but in the 3.
I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to do that, though, is he? We've had so many
He
chances.
talked about it post-match that his best position is a 6 or an 8, not a 10.
Yeah. It'd be lovely. I can see a world. Matasi were slightly withdrawn, Taylor and Nunez slightly ahead of him, and it seems to tick a lot of boxes. But has McKenna ever played a 4-3-3 since coming here? I don't think so. We saw the 2 narrow 10s and the kind of 3 at the back hybrid system, which morphed into the 4-2-3-1 that we know now. And I know it's asymmetrical and things do change in game, but I'd be very surprised if from the start we ever saw them. If you're away from home, you're chasing out a game like he used to with Don Ball in the 23-24 season, you might kind of come on and look to pack the middle of the pitch, but I'd be surprised if we ever saw it from the off as a kind of a 4-1-2, a deeper one in midfield 3. I'd like to see it, but I'd be surprised.
There was an option for your bit of both, by the way, Don Ball. You could have found some very niche clues for him, perhaps. Paul makes a really good point. Nunes and Azon appear to have developed a really good understanding. You wonder whether they come into the team together like, I guess they did at Charlton, didn't they? But yeah, I agree. They're definitely finding good space and getting passes to each other. Certainly Nunes into Azon, isn't it? So, yeah, that's an interesting observation there. Rob agrees with you, Seb. Clark deserves the start.
Yeah.
David's given us his lineup. Probably worth flagging. He's chucked in McAteer, who did the press conference today, our 12 million winger that we haven't talked about, Seb. Does David have a point there in terms of McAteer may have a role in an away day?
Well, yeah, I mean, we discussed Middlesbrough away. We kind of, with hindsight, we said it should have been a game for McAteer to start. He started Egley, but we said it should have been a game for McAteer given the atmosphere and everything. I just think, like you say, Egley is growing into the role. Like you, I'm convinced he's going to score a worldie at some point in the not too distant future on that left foot cutting inside. So you have spent 17 million quid. He is the Championship's record signing. I think you keep playing him for now. He's kind of a player that can win us a game of football. Whereas, no disrespect to Casey McAteer, I'm not sure he is. I think he's a much better systems kind of player, but Egley could be that spark you need. If you're struggling against the side and you need something popping up like a set piece or a long throw, that left foot of his from range might be a really useful Arsenal, and therefore I think you play him. I don't think he'll play all 3, but I think he might start this one and Watford, and then McAteer might well come in for the Swansea away game.
Okay, a lot of love for Egley as well. Got better as the game went on, says Neil. And Ben has similar view to us too. Keep playing Egley. He's on the verge of doing something special. You do get that sense that, I think I said it on the live event last week, that those 2 chances that fell to him in the box, you kind of get the sense now he's got those out of his system that he'd be cool and probably get something on target, wouldn't he? You got to hope for that, don't you?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, if get in the right places. It's better to be in the positions and miss them rather than not be in the positions at all. So you do feel it definitely feels like momentum is building, and he's not too far away from his first Town goal.
Yeah, Colin's a fan. Stevie says I'm certain McAteer is starting. I don't know if that's Stevie's got intel or whether that's on the basis of the presser.
Did we ever work out? Wasn't the presser generally deemed to be a red herring? I'm sure someone worked it out. It might be Chris Rand, maybe in our Telegram group. I'm sure at some point he worked out
the graphic, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? That was it. Yeah, I remember someone did look into it, and there was quite a low percentage chance of the players that end up talking to the press actually starting the game. It seems to be more of a McKenna outfoxing his opponents.
Yes, Trevor, Azon, Nakpom, Egley all need a goal. I think more than that. Added George Hurst, adding an injured Sam Smodic. There's a lot of players that are queuing up to try and get a tap in at QPR away, but unfortunately only a few of them can. But yeah, some good stuff in there. Stop rotating, says Paul. Just needs to figure out that best 11. As we said, Seb, it comes with victories, doesn't it? I guess, or you pick it on the basis of you ignore form, then you just do it on the basis of how much we spent on them. Maybe I'm not sure. Well, it's got to be on the back of performances, doesn't it?
Yeah, everyone can name the League One side and the 23-24 side. You can name that effortlessly, and occasionally we'd seen Edmondson dropped in for specific games. He would discuss a left-footed player that would cut inside onto their left foot. He wanted to kind of shut them down, so that became a kind of horses for courses kind of thing. We need to get that consistency now in the starting 11. For me, as I just said, you could name 9 of the starting 11 from the 22-23 and the 23-24 seasons effortlessly, couldn't you? We're not at that stage yet, and that will only come with victories, hopefully starting on Saturday, and hopefully we sit here in second week of January and suddenly there's a real core to the team, and every week you can pretty much name 8 of the 11, and that's naturally come with momentum and winning games.
Yeah, you say I could name the 9 of that team. I'd probably only get to 6 or 7 with my my luck with lineup quizzes, but the predictions are coming in. I'll come back to Seb in a second to get his, but let's see what you guys have got to say. Shabby McNally's going for a 2-2. He's got Egley and O'Shea. Another set piece goal, perhaps shabby there for O'Shea. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Neil's going for a 2-1 away. Rob's going for a 1-0 with a Hurst goal. Stevie's going for a 2-1 with a Nunes double. I love that one. Another 2-1 from Colin. David's going for a 1-0, as is Paul. And David W's got the positivity 3-0 Town. And a Hurst hat trick. Sunglasses emoji. A lot of confidence there for David. It'd be great for Hurst, wouldn't it? I really, it's frustrating for him, I'm sure, but just frustrating for all of us to see him not really the kind of like his former self in the promotion season. And even in the Premier League, we were both at Everton, scored that really good kind of back post headed knee. It's just not working for him. And I think the worry I have with Hurst is that he's got to work really hard to find a goal. And does he then go on a run? You kind of get that sense with other players, but it's not working for him at the moment, is it, George Hurst?
No, it's surprising because he was on fire in pre-season, wasn't he?
Yes,
Took the number 9 shirt, and we kind of thought, right, we've got ourselves a striker. And there was genuine debate last year at times that we were a better team when Hurst played ahead of Delap. If you saw Delap sending off last night in Maresca's comments, you'll kind of know what he thinks about him from a teamwork point of view. But yeah, there was debate that Hurst was a better link player. I remember the first goal against Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge. We said we would never score that with Delap in the team because it started by Hurst dropping deep and playing a ball down the wing for Ben Johnson to run onto. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's almost like his touch has deserted him. I don't know if the game has changed. I think I said last week, I remember a few games in 23-24 where Burgess would ping a long ball down the left channel. Hurst would spin his man, be in one-on-one and kind of slot home kind of confidently. I can't remember seeing him through on goal too many times this season. The goals he's got obviously was the penalty against Birmingham. He got a tap in against, was it Pompey in the first half? Some great sort of teamwork. But, he hasn't really got that way through on goal like we saw. So I don't know if the roles change, but yeah, he could do with a goal and a real confidence boosting display, because when he's on it, as we saw, the space he can create and the work, the shift he puts in to create space for those three behind, especially Chaplin and Broad. If you think back a couple of years ago, that was crucial to how we played. And you could argue the fact that Philogene aside and Jack Clark aside, we haven't got the number 10 position firing yet, and we haven't got the number the wide right position quite firing yet, is maybe because Hurst is struggling in whatever the new setup potentially is. So yeah, it'd be lovely to see a couple of goals for him and a real confidence boosting performance, because yeah, he does need it, but he's done it before at this level, so hopefully he will come good.
Fingers crossed. Aid is going for a 2-1 as well. That seems to be the popular scoreline. First away win. He says, well, we will keep a clean sheet on Saturday, and then it's a matter of numbers. Says Ipswich Town Old Boys going for a 2-0. That clean sheet, I talked about back-to-back wins. Back-to-back clean sheets would be really big, wouldn't it, Seb?
Massive. Yeah, I don't think we'll do it personally, but yeah, it would be huge if we can. I know 2 years ago we just outscored everybody, but the old saying is obviously that, goals win games, attackers win games, defenses win you titles and cups and promotions and the like. You have to have a solid base, don't you? So yeah, it'd be great to suddenly get a run of, 3 clean sheets out of 4 games or whatever to really have a solid base to build on. It'd be much, much nicer knowing to think, right, well, we're going to have to score 2 or 3 goals every game to win, because at the moment we haven't quite got that firepower in the attacking positions.
Brilliant. Tractor's going for a 2-2 and Sindra to get his first goal. Ben's asking you about Delap back on loan, Seb. That's come up a few times now. You're shaking your head at that one. It just feels
it's
like
not going to happen. I'd have him, but obviously it's not going to happen. There's no way they're going to spend that money, pay him a huge wage. It was really stupid. It was really deserved red card against Wolves last night. Was it Wednesday night, Tuesday night? Was it? I can't remember what night it was. Yeah, really silly thing to do, especially having just come back from injury. Maresca clearly not happy with him, but no, I can't see a world in which Chelsea let him go.
And finally, Simon's gone for a 3-0. Def info, he says, and what I can't do better than that. What's your take, Seb? Do you have the positivity vibes of last week, or an away draw for you, or even worse?
2-1 to Town. I think QPR will score. I can't see us keeping back-to-back clean sheets. As I said, they are a good second-half team, and they do finish the game very strongly. So don't be surprised if they score a late win. But I think we will get a couple, hopefully in the first half, to put the game to. But it'd be lovely to score early. That's what we kind of struggle to do in these away games, isn't it? We don't score when we're on top. Middlesbrough, Preston, not really, because we never got going. But just score early, take a lot of the pressure off, and then see what you can do. And yeah, 2-1 victory. Away day blues banished, and we're up and running at the start of the 3-game week, which immediately makes the Watford and the Swansea games easier as well.
He's writing my thumbnails for me, folks. Good stuff. Seb, thank you as always for your research, your insight. Thank you everybody in the chat for joining the conversation and prompting us on quizzes and our knowledge or the lack thereof. We will be back Sunday for the flagship show with Ben. I think Ben, Dave, and Joe. I think we're back to the normal lineup there. But as we mentioned, plenty of stuff going on over on Top Tier, so do get involved in that. And I'll say thank you. I need to sign us out though, don't I, Seb? So I'll let you say final goodbyes, and then we'll get off to the traitors.
Thank you to everybody. We will obviously see you on the flagship. Rich and I will do the pre-match light for Watford for top tier members. If you're not a top tier subscriber, please take advantage of the freebies that Rich gave away. If they're still there, and the ones David gave away. There is some excellent content over there. But as always, the main stuff will still be free. We'll be back for Swansea this time next week before the international break. And just give the people as you just sign out, give them a one last lovely view of that t-shirt that you're wearing.
Yeah. There you go.
Good stuff. Thanks, mate.
If you want it on the merch store, too bad. Not going to happen. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved. Thank you, David, for your generosity as well. And hopefully we've got plenty of positivity to talk about on the flagship and ahead of some 2 big games next week as well. And before you say goodbye, do give that thumbs up button a press and a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. And whilst I'm padding for time to get the button, there it is. I'll say, come on, you Blues!